This video is going to be an interesting one, and one that's more of a meta discussion about the state of the internet and particularly politics online, because as much as it may sound silly because so much of politics affects real life, I think over the last 5 years we've seen a very clear trend in the fact that 90% of political issues start on the internet as some like Twitter discourse and end up actually being legislated on in our government in the end. And I think it is the prerogative of the left to embrace the culture war that is inevitable and attempt to counter-message on issues that the Republicans gain popular support on through internet rumors, memes, and conspiracy theories, and then actually make into real law affecting us in real life. I think it's a pretty reasonable take, but many people haven't seen the direct connection. Think woke. Like woke was literally something that the first time I ever heard woke, and for years, woke was only ever used by your quartering type YouTubers, your like geeks and gamers and your like maulers and what have you. Like, these were the people who said woke for years before politicians started saying it. What state the internet is in culturally and politically matters a lot. And in this case, we're going to be talking about the state of trans rights and trans support online. Let me rewind you back to about 4 years ago. Or even 2. If you said something mildly offensive to trans people, the internet would nuke you. And when I say mildly offensive to trans people, I mean you might just be an apolitical streamer who played the new Harry Potter game, and now you've got like mobs of trans people sending you death threats. Is this a good thing? Absolutely not. Though I think it is a clear sign or a symptom of the fact that the trans community was in a state of confidence and strength online. It had a voice, and it was loud, and it was proud. Even if those were a loud minority, mind you, the people who did that kind of stuff, you know, the amount of people doing that still demonstrated, you know, the group they're a part of, that they're a loud minority of, is still quite big, right? But over the last year and a half, I've seen that it is much in a 2016 manner become far more popular, lucrative, and sensationalized to go after trans people and to harass them and attack them, to make statements virtue signaling how much you dislike trans people. Now we have had the reverse effect. The same goes for racism in a way. A couple years ago, racist Karens were losing their entire livelihoods over thinking they could ruin the life of some innocent black person by like trying to get the cops called out on them because they were barbecuing at the park or something. Now that, what's her name, Shiloh Hendricks lady, who screamed the N-word at a child on a playground and accused him of stealing her child's toys, ended up making $1 million off of racists and, frankly, plenty of normies too, getting together to make her a millionaire as like a fuck you to cancel culture and the left. We're in a, well, clown world right now. There's no other way of putting it. And I was recommended a video that I think might do a really good job of sort of expanding on this idea. It's by a VTuber named Niara VT. And they made a video called Transphobia is Always the Same and I'm Tired of It. And it actually ties into something I talked about recently, which is the transphobia and, you know, edgelord syndrome of the VTuber community, and the tendency now for the largest figures out there to be massive hateful chuds and to use their platforms to send hate after people that disagree with them or even just have a take they don't like, particularly if they are, you know, trans or LGBT. And so I think you guys are going to find a lot of value in this video. It's pretty long, so we can't watch all of it, but that's why there will be a link at the top of the description to the full video, which I highly recommend you go check out on your own after you finish this one. And make sure you drop a like and a comment on it as well, and subscribe, just to send some support. But and for now, let's go ahead and see what this video is all about.
Like Kirche has only gained more viewers and money in the past 2 months. Right-wing content creators have banded together to bully Anna and me into silence. The real cancel culture comes from the right because of the shift in the political climate. While transphobia, racism, anti-Semitism, etc. is a lucrative trend, the truth doesn't matter anymore. And if you go against the fascist ideology, these people will stop at nothing. As a trans person on the internet,
this is absolutely true. The right has always been brutal, but especially in the online space right now, and especially if you're a creator, the right has gotten so empowered that their main prerogative has been like attempted career ruination, right? There was a time where like hate videos on me were like just bullshit, like, attempts to go after, like, my politics or takes that I had. And they were garbage, but it was, like, at least an effort to go after what I was saying. Now, though, every time people link me a video that's, like, calling me out by a conservative, it's always, like, very clearly just, like, spamming hate videos about me, trying to, like, harm my reputation and my well-being. Most of the videos are literally, like, calling for me to be homeless, like, in their thumbnails and titles. Some of them are things like, a recent one was claiming that I'm a brony now. Like, the right has gotten a lot more vitriolic and a lot more, like, they're going for the throat now against people, right? A big thing that we've been seeing right now is that Trump is trying to go after the finances of colleges. The right is very much like, they go for the throat when they go after people on the left and they feel empowered. They don't pull their punches in the slightest. They want to see you destroyed. And they particularly don't pull their punches against people who fall into certain minority groups, such as trans people. And, right now it is very powerful, successful, wealthy people that are targeting smaller progressive voices, or even just voices that are in the LGBT community, or who are black, or who are just POC in general, or women. Like, this is what the state of the internet is right now. And when the internet decides the future of political issues in America, that's scary.
I have faced so much harassment that I thought I got used to it. However, after Asmongold quote-unquote reacted to me, my perspective has changed. When Vice put the articles, it showed Kirche and her right-wing friends that they can get away with anything. It doesn't matter how offensive
these biological women claiming to be men perpetrating shootings,
how hateful she is.
They're building like a 2.5 million pound mosque somewhere in like northern England that doesn't even have like a large Muslim population. And I was like, of course they are. Yeah, of course they are. I get increasingly angry when I see people who are just like, well, they're not doing anything illegal, so, like, you can't really be mad at them. It's like, this is very clearly a hostile takeover.
People would throw money at her, and anyone else who pushes the same rhetoric, while the opposition gets silenced. I'm incredibly disappointed at Vice for giving in and removing the articles by...
I realize that some of my viewers might be, like, boomers who have no idea about the VTuber community, so I'm going to give, like, a little insight here. VTubers are streamers that use their cameras to basically... They use their cameras in conjunction with a software that essentially rigs... That's the term for it. Different body parts. It can even be eyebrows, your eyes, your nose, and your mouth, to a avatar that's usually made by an artist and connected to said rig in order to react in the same way you do in real life. So, like, the camera's capturing you and directly translating your movements to a designed avatar. And when you talk, the avatar talks. And some of them are very, very sophisticated, like down to, like, eyebrow movements and crinkling of the nose and everything. Like, there are some very high-tech VTubers out there. And they are real people. They're just using an avatar that they present as. And they usually really lean into being that character. They rarely ever show their faces. They tend to never tell their real names or even talk too much about their own real lives. And they almost role play as, and it's always like an anime character, mind you. They always role play as the character usually. Not always, but a lot of them do. And this is particularly prevalent in the sector of the VTuber space that's being talked about here, where there is a massive trend for, like, since it's only voice, if you have the right voice for it and you're a woman and you design a gooner bait enough VTuber avatar, you will have hordes of young, impressionable men eating out of the palm of your hand. And they will believe whatever you tell them to believe. And if they're already conservative, which would be the audience that they're, going after because that's more lucrative, they'll flock to you because they want to hear, like, a pretty anime girl with a real woman's voice speaking. Or, like, they'll do a baby voice. That's especially popular with, like, the pedophiles that watch this shit. And they just want to hear, like, a woman's voice that is a real woman, but from the mouth of an anime woman, telling them that all of their right-wing politics are good and valid, right? And they're usually super edgy about it too. They're like, if the most annoying pick-me girl you've ever heard that's just trying as hard as possible to be, like, gross and edgy and, like, offensive and over the top about it to be one of the boys, they're always like that. They're always like that. Like, not always. I shouldn't say that. They're almost always like that. There are plenty of very wholesome VTubers that are nice and good, and many that are progressive, and many that are trans. This person we're watching is a VTuber, but man, I don't even think the creator we're watching, whom themselves is a VTuber, would disagree with what I said here. It is a pandemic, or I guess an epidemic, in the VTuber space.
Anti-valence to the sheer mention of a lawsuit because it did an incredible disservice to free speech. I know that if Vice faced backlash for this, it would reinstate them, which is why I'm asking you to make your voices heard. In yesterday's stream, I have addressed the video about me on Asmongold's clip channel, but I've seen more and more slop content pop up that push the same narrative. This is an emotional and traumatic topic for me. And
my name for this type of content is chud slop, and this is why I have deemed the era that we're in the chud slop era. You guys ever see like the 2B2T history timelines? I've thought about making a internet politics timeline similar to that, as LARPy as it might be and cringe as it might be. And I feel like this era that we're in, I would name the chud slop era. No, the AI slop is part of the chud slop stuff. Like it's all under the umbrella of chud slop. We're in the chud slop era. Before this was the breadtube era, and before the breadtube era was the anti-SJW or Gamergate era. Haven't decided what's best to call it yet. And before that was the atheist era, is probably what I'd call it. And I don't necessarily know enough about internet politics to go further than that at the moment, but right now we are very much in the, and there is no better name for it than chud slop era. Slop is the name most people have for content that's just like low effort and churned out in high volume for people to just consume because it agrees with their like beliefs or just is background noise and whatnot. You could call what I make slop, though I like to think I put a pretty decent amount of thought into what I do, and I try to be like introspective and, you know, teach people at least one thing in every video. You know, I try to at least add value to my content, even if I have to, like, engage in the slop mechanism of production, you know, mass content uploads. But the right-wing slop meta right now is extremely strong, and it is dominating the internet from Twitter to YouTube, and even TikTok and all everywhere, really. Threads, Instagram, everywhere. And so that's the name for that, slop, and of course it's chud content, so chud slop. We're in the era of chud slop. There's no better name for it.
Since I'm incredibly vulnerable right now, I hope you don't mind yesterday's crash out. As a trans person who didn't have access to education and healthcare as a kid, it took me years to not only learn about the fact that I'm not alone with my struggles, but I had to unlearn a lot of the internalized transphobia. I thought there was nothing I can do about my gender dysphoria, and I just needed to find a way to cope. This led to me spending my childhood and teenage years isolating myself and being depressed, anxious, and suicidal. When I found out that I wasn't just a cross-dresser, a femboy, and so on at 17, I had to spend years educating myself on trans topics in order to understand myself better. It took me until I was 22 to have the strength and courage to come out, and then 3 more years to find a therapist who was knowledgeable enough to help me start HRT. I create content to share my experience and teach about the things that I have learned from experts in the field. My opinion is being backed by scientific evidence.
Wait, I think I just got a joke. I think this YouTuber is German, or this VTuber is German, and in the background it's Klaus from American Dad, who is, for those who don't know, German. A German person in a fish's body.
In every major medical association, but transphobes dismiss any studies I show them. However, I'm neither a therapist nor work in the medical field. I'm literally just an anime fox girl on the internet who happens to piss off the worst types of people, who now need to push a disgusting narrative in order to justify their transphobia, to show everyone what happens when you go against their gender ideology. But the worst part of it all is seeing other trans or queer people in general fall for their rhetoric. I've been there, and I hope by providing more context I can clear up most, if not all, misconceptions. Although you do need to agree that trans kids exist just like gay kids or straight kids. I'm at a breaking point, and as one of the bigger trans rights advocates in this space, I feel like I need to keep pushing through this, but I just can't do it alone anymore. I will be taking some time off of content creation, but I will make a return on June 3rd, 5 p.m. CEST, and Twitch.
It really is sad, but like, you know, this is really the standard for what the internet is like now. If you're not only part of a marginalized group, but if you are a voice that, you know, is in favor of them. The culture right now has been so heavily centered, like internet-wide, the culture has been so heavily centered around like fundamentally conservative sensibilities and ideas, and this has made people really open to excusing or even engaging in this type of harassment. And there's really just not like a broad community effort to like act in defense of people in this position right now. It's sad.
TV/NeraVT. Make sure to join the Discord if you want to stay updated. The link to it is in the description. I can't thank you all enough for your support, and I hope you enjoy my breakdown. I made the video talking about the slop tubers with this one clip of Asmongold cutting me off mid-sentence, 7 seconds into the video, to portray me in a way that has been used to justify the harassment, the hate crimes against the trans and gay community. I'm just going to play this. I've certain things that—
God, the slop meta is so insane. We're talking millions of views in a week on every one of these. These are 2.5-minute clips from a live stream where he's probably pulling countless donos and stuff. Obviously Asmongold is giga rich, but it's less about the fact that Asmongold himself is rich. It's more look at how lucrative and clickable this type of slop is. And this is some of the most low effort garbage content imaginable, you know? This is the shit that's the meta online right now. She responded ... not even a ... but ... I get that Asmongold is huge, so it's naturally going to do really well, but this is pulling broadly a lot of people from across YouTube. People are clicking these videos and watching them. And the whole point is the fact that it's meant to make you angry. It's meant to get your attention. It's meant to make you angry once you watch it. People comment and they engage with it, and that boosts it wildly right now. We're in a meta where content that makes you angry has an advantage. And there was a commenter in one of my videos actually, a week ago, that pointed this out, and I hadn't actually thought of it this way. But the right also has another advantage when it comes to their engagement in algorithms that I hadn't considered. That is the fact that them being so obviously wrong and hateful rage baits progressives into commenting on their posts and their videos way more frequently than they will on the average left-leaning video they agree with. And so the argumentative comments end up boosting conservative channels. Meanwhile, the progressive channels they watch, they'll rarely comment on because they agree. They have nothing really to say. You know, they can't think of anything to say. And of course, a lack of engagement is the #1 reason why the left is where it is right now online.
That I want to address.
So we have a person here who is a big fan, very big fan of giving children puberty blockers.
Forcing trans kids to go through puberty.
Doctors, in fact, tend to be a big fan of that as well, Asmongold. So yeah, puberty blockers, this needs to be stated because it is just a fact of life, are not exclusively used for trans people. The fact that certain medical procedures and treatments have been made into a culture war issue is so fucking silly because all of them have been done for cis people with no political fuckery behind it for decades. So let's talk about hormones to begin with. You know, as a cis guy, I'm pretty sure I could just go to the doctor and ask for T supplements. Just to get it would cost money, I'm sure, but I'm pretty sure I can just go get injections of tea and cap out the maximum amount of possible tea a human can have and just juice my way through working out. That is a thing people do, and tons of cis guys do this, are literally on tea like any trans guy, but it's for this purpose of anabolic steroids. Right? Oh, wait, it was literally pointed out by somebody here. Tons of cis guys do this, and there's no political fuckery around this. The same goes for estrogen. A lot of women go through menopause around their 40s and 50s. This typically results in them losing a lot of the natural hormone production that they've relied on for decades of their lives. And if you don't want some pretty significant symptoms that can lead from, they can go anywhere from significant hair growth to severe mood swings because you're so hormonally imbalanced. Many women who are going through or post-menopause have to take hormone supplements in the form of topical estrogen gels or pills or injections. These are very common hormone supplementations and hormone treatments we do for cis people all the time, and it's never considered a big deal. And then in the case of hormone blockers on top of that, which this is specifically about, and mind you, all of these things are done for kids too, to supplement them if their hormones are at low levels and they need to be normalized or stabilized. These procedures and these hormones done for kids all the time for medical reasons, no one cared because it was completely apolitical. No one gave a fuck. No one was disagreeing with the doctors then. because why would they? There was no like ideology against it. And then of course there's hormone blockers. Many of you guys might know about different like what's the term for it? There's a broad umbrella term for when people have issues, I'm just gonna say hormonal disorders. I remember one of the best examples of like how just anyone could have an issue with like hormone production and require like hormone blockers, for instance. There was someone I knew who had to take them, pretty frequently, who was cis. When I was on the high school swim team, there was an assistant to the coach, and obviously I was in high school, and she looked like she was, a senior, maybe like 2 years older than me at the time, but in my age generally, right? And I thought she was cute, and I kind of got flirty with her, and then she immediately hit me with I'm 28. I was like, oh. But, she was very polite about it and explained to me that she had, like, this thing where essentially she just kind of looked like she was, like, a senior in high school still, but she was actually an adult and had to take, like hormone blockers for, like, or some kind of hormone supplement thing for it. She was like a cis woman completely, but that's just a thing that happens where people will, like, look younger even though they're an adult, or look older even though they're younger, due to hormone shit, and that requires hormone blockers or hormone supplementation in those cases. This has happened for decades, and no one gives a shit, because there was never any big political thing around it. No, there's a broad, like, category for people who have these hormone things. But yeah, like, there's never been a political movement against these treatments, because there wasn't an ideology against the people who have these disorders. Trans people, whom doctors all agree, that's treatment for gender dysphoria, which, typically causes transness, the treatment for that is to take hormones. Doctors broadly agree on this, overwhelmingly they agree on this, and yet all of a sudden it's insane to suggest that that's good. The implication, of course, is supposed to be that, like, if you think kids should go on puberty blockers, mind you, this only works on very uneducated and quick to assumptions, presumptuous people, that you're some kind of groomer, that you want to force kids into taking a, like, gender-changing medicine when they're too young to understand what that means and what the consequences or implications are, right? It's meant to prey on the common sense of people in thinking, like, oh, kids are stupid, they can't make a decision like that. But don't think about it any further than that.
That doesn't align with their gender identity and causes them to have depression, anxiety, and a high risk of suicidality just because you believe that trans people shouldn't be allowed to exist is bad, actually. It admits children should take anabolic steroids if they are groomed through Munchausen by proxy. Like, the level of transphobia in this statement.
Yeah, they're anabolic steroids when you take them for the purpose of improving physical performance, not when you take them as a treatment for, like, hormone disorder, which is what it would be considered if you are a trans person who needs a higher, like, estrogen and lower testosterone. So no, it's not anabolic steroids in that case at all. That's not. Anabolic steroids are a very specific category of not just steroids, but steroid use.
HRT, they're not anabolic steroids, and you cannot groom a cis kid to become trans. Trans kids exist. I don't understand how this is a controversial statement. So this channel is also, being hosted by Asmongold's clipper or editor. This isn't even like, just an Asmongold clip from a stream. This is not a stream.
Mind you, and this is something I've wanted to, like, emphasize, frankly, every stream to you guys. Clip channels are massively meta online. Most of these big streamers like Asmongold and XQC, and especially the right-wing streamers, have dozens of fan channels that are just uploading clips, anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes long, of, like, the highlight moments of any given stream, like, on a daily or multiple times a day basis. And in most cases, those channels are fully monetized, with the uploaders claiming all the revenue. That is the meta on YouTube. More YouTube channels uploading your clips and spreading them to a broader audience on different channels with different, like, levels of favorability in the algorithm is so meta. And for that reason and many others, if you guys ever want to make, like, a Xander Hall Clips channel and just upload clips of my content and monetize it for your own gain, fine by me. I'll never claim or like copyright you or anything like that. Feel free to make money off of sharing clips of me. It helps the channel, and it means that both you guys and me get to benefit. It is genuinely extremely effective in the YouTube meta right now, and it's a big part of why Asmongold specifically has gotten so big. There are 500 Asmongold clip channels spamming YouTube. Same goes for Hassan. Hassan's benefited from the same effect. If you guys ever want to make some easy money on the side uploading clips of my channel, I will not complain. I will thank you, in fact. And encourage you to make as much money for yourself as possible. Pay off your student loans or cover your rent each month, or basically never have to worry about groceries, ideally. Like, cover everything if you can. Yeah, make clip channels. Like, make a lot of them.
Highlight, this is just like, you know, him being a tool to push a certain propaganda.
Giving children puberty blockers. Trans people will never leave kids alone. We want trans kids to be trans and give them the education and care we desperately needed when we were younger. Stop making it so difficult for us to be part of society.
This tweet was on purpose more
Replace trans with gay, and I feel like it gets a lot less controversial.
controversial. This was a thumbnail for a YouTube video. I changed the thumbnail. I think right now the thumbnail says, let trans kids be trans. And by trans people will never leave kids alone, it obviously means that trans people are not going to give up on the next generation of trans people, of trans kids.
I'm gonna be honest, never self-censor. I know she was getting immense amounts of harassment and whatnot, but never fucking self-censor with these people. I refuse to. I've seen so many people doing it lately. Like, do you remember when what's his name? I'm blanking on his name right now. The animator guy who recently got accused of like all that shit, and then it ended up being bogus. He's the guy with the glasses in his avatar. I cannot remember his name for the life of me right now. It's just completely... Saberspark, thank you. Saberspark made a video, like, a couple months ago, dunking on... Not even dunking on, but, like, soft jabbing, partially at Freedom Tunes. Freedom Tunes and his fan base brigaded his channel so severely that, they were forced to... He like, edited all the parts that mentioned Freedom Tunes out of the video, and the entire video was still ratioed to hell. Also, just to talk about how fucked things are right now... Sorry, you know who made the tweet that we're reading right now? Rev Says Desu. Man... 7.2k. To be fair, Rev Says Desu has exploded immensely due to Asmongold shoutouts. He was the pro lolicon guy that I've been in multiple dramas with in the past. One of my greatest haters, in fact, is this lolicon guy here, the VTuber. So, yeah, he's gotten immensely large in the chud slop era. He's very, very locked in on the chud slop meta.
Because we know what we've been through, and we want their lives to improve. Get tired of being a scapegoat, being used as a tool for right-wingers to garner votes. Would you debate Asmon about this? I don't believe he would, like, talk to me. I don't like debates in that sense, because what I'm saying is just, like, factually true information. It is backed by...
Listen, if Asmongold agrees to it, I will, like, you can basically use me as, like, your proxy, you know? Like how in, like, medieval times, if you had trial by combat, but you were kind of, like, let's say you're missing an arm, and it's like, okay, well, you clearly can't fight for yourself. You're at a clear disadvantage. It's not fair. So you will select a champion, right? I will be the champion that debates Asmongold on this topic, because, oh boy, that motherfucker doesn't know shit. Dude, the second you source, like, the American Academy of Pediatrics at him, like, he's gonna be like, how's he gonna respond once you start, like, quoting actual medical sources, you know, sites that end in .edu, .gov, and whatnot. These are legit fucking sources, you know? Teachers accept these sources when you add them to your paper in college, you know? The internet can be used for good and bad things. Bo Burnham's Welcome to the Internet encapsulates how I feel. It really does, honestly. That song will never not apply to the internet, unless I guess it becomes super locked down in corporate.
Every reputable medical association, and it's in line with the WPATH Standards of Care 8. It is in line with my personal experiences and with the life experiences of other trans people that I know. And he literally would just go, nah, Well, I think, and like you can't have a debate like that, it wouldn't work. Asman doesn't know enough about the topic in order to understand where he is wrong. There's no common ground. It is just
Absolutely
like
true.
blatant ignorance from his side.
The big problem right now is there is a direct financial punishment to informing yourself on this issue. There have been a good few creators who have come out with a lot of, they get a lot of shit for it, and some of them have been completely canceled for it, who have had like a normie or conservative leaning audience. They become behind the scenes informed on the issue of trans people and a lot of these political issues, but like they're terrified of ever expressing these newfound political opinions to their audience they've had for like maybe half a decade or more in some cases, because like they feel like a hostage to their audience. Like if they ever express what they actually believe now, what they've learned, then they'll get ripped apart. And I think Asmongold knows that to an extent, and as that has become the standard, that there is an active punishment in every way that you can be punished online for informing yourself on these issues and coming out about it. Think Hunter Avalone, for instance, and that's years ago. It is very, very difficult for a lot of these people like Asmongold to even seek out information to inform themselves, because why would you put in work that is guaranteed to hurt your bottom line? Why would you put in work into learning about an issue when talking about it as ignorantly as possible is how you make the most money and get the most success and the most popularity and the most people patting you on the back and clapping for you? Like, why would you ever inform yourself at that point?
It is malicious ignorance. Like the outrage is being used for him to get more money, get more views, get more relevance, being boosted in the algorithm. There's like no point in like engaging with that more than I already have. I just hope that like maybe some people out there are going to hear the things that I'm saying, and they're like, well, maybe she does have a point. Anyways, let me report that because of the crash.
So we have a person here who is a big fan, very big fan of giving children puberty blockers.
I mean, it's pretty important to say what type of child it is. It is children who are questioning their gender identity in order to prevent them going into the Tennessee.
Believe it or not, you cannot buy puberty blockers or hormones off of a shelf of a pharmacy. They're prescribed by doctors after like, if you've ever been sick or had a medical issue that required medication, you know how the American medical system works. For one, you might not even get the medication you need if it's not covered in your insurance, or you can't afford to pay out of pocket for it, or if you can't even afford the copay for it. And then on top of that, like, first you have to go to a doctor. Generally it's your like general care, you're like your main doctor. You complain about some problem, they check you out, they send you to a specialist. The specialist checks you out. After several follow-ups with a specialist, assuming your insurance covers it and the doctor even prescribes you, because they recommend it, or I should say the specialist even prescribes you the medication, like you have to go to like a designated pharmacy, pick it up, you have to have a prescription. Like no one who falls for this shit, I think most of the people who fall for this shit are either blinded by hate or, and this is key, a lot of these people are teenagers, especially among Asmongold's audience. We're like older teenagers, but teenagers nonetheless. No one who has any actual experience with the American medical system, because let's be real, the way most of these people talk about this is like you can go buy hormones off the shelf of the pharmacy. Like, that's not how it works. That is so far from how it works. A doctor, several doctors are always involved in that process with their like high approval and their recommendation. And then of course you have to have money and resources to even get said medication financially.
Before they were like talking to a therapist to figure out what the right path for them is. The goal of it is literally just to give someone who is questioning their gender identity time to work with experts before deciding what the right path for them is. It is just like in line with the standards of care aid from the WPATH. Trans people will never leave kids alone. Obviously, what I'm talking about is trans people are not going to give up on trans kids. We want trans kids to have a better future than we had. We want them to have the education and care that we needed, and we just want them to be a part of society and not be used as a scapegoat by fascists to mobilize people so they get more and more power, so they can
The thing is, once these trans kids grow up into trans adults, you'd think, oh, they'll have their voice. They'll be able to finally say, what you did to me as a kid was awful. But those trans kids will just be saying the same things that she's saying and every other trans person now is saying. They're having the same experience that every trans person who's an adult now had when they were a kid. The trans people around now haven't grown up, and now their voices matter. And they're like, hey, I was trans all along. See, that doesn't matter. Then, once they're adults, they get accused of being groomers. You are either a victim of grooming or a groomer if you're trans, in the worldview of these transphobic conservatives. There is no reasonable middle ground line where they can see like where they can come to an understanding. When you rely entirely on the nebulous concept of common sense, that is to say, making shit the fuck up based off whatever you assume must be true, off just raw intuition, you're going to come to some pretty retarded opinions, believe it or not. And that's what a lot of the right has done, particularly on trans people, which unfortunately you do require some level of an education to be like basically woke on trans stuff, you know? Like even, you know, the YouTuber we're watching right now, has said exactly that when she was younger, despite being trans, she was uneducated on much of these issues, and that led to her holding some pretty cringy bad ideas. This is famously the case with a lot of trans people, and especially cis people. Unfortunately, transness requires some level of effort in being educated on the topic, and that is a very hard barrier to climb in many cases.
Exploit more people.
Trans people will never leave kids alone. We want trans kids to be trans and give them the education and care we desperately needed when we were younger. Stop making it so difficult for us to be part of society. It is not transphobic to not want kids to transition.
Yes, it is. Because your reasoning for trans kids, for not wanting trans kids to transition, is the fact that you do not have an understanding when it comes to gender affirming care for trans youth, and you are literally pushing transphobic talking points. So I'm going to like bring up Paint in just a second, but let's watch.
Hell yeah.
Let them finish their point, because I don't want to use something out of context that might be like dangerous. Here's the same talking points that refuse people hysterectomies. Yeah.
This is not transphobic. This is normal.
No, this is not normal. It is just based in ignorance. You don't know enough about the topic to make these.
Well, the core of what he's saying here is fundamentally a callback to Trump's slogan. I mean, she, I believe, is German. Based on her accent, I may be wrong. You know, I'm American, okay? I'm not good with the accents and identification. I'm always confusing British people, South Africans, Australians, and New Zealanders all the time. Regardless, though, in America, Trump has his slogan, the MAGA slogan of common sense above all. That's like the big slogan of MAGA. And when says this isn't transphobic, this is normal, he is trying to appeal to that same slogan of the MAGA movement, of common sense. And it's so funny how glorified the concept of common sense is. I think frequently because people say, at a bare minimum, use your common sense when they say or do something stupid. And somehow, like, we've glorified the concept of common sense as if it's the gold standard rather than the bare minimum, you know? But common sense is just that, common, you know? And common doesn't necessarily mean smart, and common doesn't necessarily mean right. You know, it is a very heavy lean on the idea that, well, most people agree with this idea. Most people, at least who are loud about their opinion on this issue, agree with this idea. And so while it's popular, this is what I'll choose to believe. Mind you, Asmongold has completely flipped on trans stuff, all right? I was a fan of Asmongold back when he did WoW content, and one of the best WoW YouTubers, period, is a YouTuber named Barney Beekeeper. And Barney Beekeeper is a trans woman, and she makes, or still does make, but has especially in the past made literally the best WoW videos on YouTube. Like, I guess only, like, really, you know, rivaled by Uber Danger's WoW videos. But as you can imagine, React Lord Asmongold reacted to Barney's videos, and considering that it was public knowledge she's trans, there were some people in chat that would be rude about it, and Asmongold would regularly call out the transphobes in chat and frequently lauded this publicly trans YouTuber's amazing content as masterful. This is back before Asmongold had a huge hate boner for WoW and made most of his views off of being like an ex-WoW guy who hates WoW now and left the game. But, like, here's Asmongold soying out over a trans woman's YouTube video.
Actually open yet, because the gates of Anchorage are closed.
So how do we open the gate?
Well, the Anchorage
bunch of
patch
stuff.
didn't just introduce these two
A
new
bunch
raids,
of
it
shit.
also introduced a server-wide event known as the War Effort, and a very, 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 very long, notorious questline known as the Scepter questline.
It was
the War
really
Effort is
cool.
a giant cross-faction fetch quest
Like, that shit
requires
was
each
really,
faction
really
to hand
cool.
in several thousand materials of varying rarities. Did I say a couple thousand? Sorry, I meant
Yeah.
tens of thousands. Once both factions have completed their list, there is a 5-day real-time
It goes
waiting
hard.
period where the War NPCs will move from their current location to Silithus, and once they arrive in
That's so cool, man. Like, this event was so badass. I wish they would make more events like this in the game now. But the thing is, like,
So, like, Asmongold did not used to be this, like, raging transphobic asshole. In fact, he literally used to regularly shout out Barney Beekeeper. Barney Beekeeper would make jokes about how Asmongold, like, enjoys her videos and stuff. People in the chat would regularly, like, dunk on transphobes, making transphobic comments about Barney Beekeeper. And this is not the only trans YouTuber Asmongold watched in this era. But there is one key thing I want to point out. What year did this come out? 2020. Just after Biden got elected. Up until around 2022, I'd say, we were in the bread tube era. This was a time when not just in the left tube sphere of the internet, but broadly, there was a pretty strong cultural push to be progressive. And in fact, cancel culture was a big topic of discussion on the right because, yeah, if you said something bigoted and you had a, like, normie audience, you were probably going to get giga canceled and maybe you lose your career. Nowadays, that's much the opposite. You'll become a millionaire if you say something racist now, even if you're just some lady on a playground somewhere, it turns out. But as the meta of the internet and the culture has turned far more harsh towards minorities and particularly trans people, Asmongold has jumped on that bandwagon and he's flipped entirely. I was a fan of him back when he was defending trans people against his mean transphobic chatters, and now he's literally one of them. Anyway, with all that said, if you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, educational, or enjoyable in any way, then please consider leaving a like and a comment. Every single thumbs up just takes half a second to leave, and it really boosts the channel and the algorithm and helps immensely every time you do it. You can add on to that, by the way, compound the effect by dropping a comment as well. And if you don't know what to leave a comment on, you can comment down below trans rights, just to let me know you watched this far in the video, and to express, you know, trans rights, a classic pro-trans meme on the internet. So drop a trans rights in the comments if you watch this far to let me know you saw all the way to the end. It also helps the channel a ton. And subscribe and ring the bell icon down below if you want to turn on all notifications so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos in the future. It really does help a lot. And of course, if you want to see more from me on other platforms, my social medias are linked down below in the description, particularly my fan Discord server where I host gaming events, call-in streams, and movie nights every week on Fridays. And I also announce all my new uploads and streams there, so if you don't want to miss anything, that is the place to be. Finally, if you've got the money for it, you feel like it, and you want to, please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xanderhall merch through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. YouTube, and generally the internet as a whole, has had a massive algorithmic meta change over time, but especially as of late, where rage bait and particularly just hateful conservative content has a massive leg up over progressive content. It always has, but it's especially bad now. So leaving likes, comments, and if you feel like it, donating helps now more than ever. And don't just do it for me, do it for your favorite progressive creators that aren't me as well. But with that said, regardless of how you support me, thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope you have a good one.